Welcome to my humble abode. I'm Yorkie the Talespinner, and this Tales Over Coffee. A morning show where we start the day together with a narrative tale and a coffee, and this is Suzerain, the continuing tale of Anton Rain's presidency. Things are definitely hectic in Sordland. We don't really have the budget to do everything we need. Does any government ever? Report. Reform Committee status report. The Jugulum reported that so far they have been able to get in total 87 signatures behind the proposal. Efforts are underway to increase the support. And then we move on. Chapter 2, a new Sordland. The news reports. Blackhaven Times. Blackhaven League of Women March. Hundreds of women organised by Swordish League of Women marched and called gender equality in the country. The group held signs highlighting the issues of domestic violence, the wage gap, maternity leave, and the sexist attitude in the education system. Police forces quickly created a security cordon to protect the march after a large group of religious counter-protesters arrived. The calls for equality were drowned by the loud group of conservatives. The protests were a clear reflection of the division that surrounds the country. It also raises questions if the First Lady Monica Rain's agenda to raise awareness and trigger change in the issue will bear fruit. Valglandian Navy forces Agnolian drill ship to retreat from Helgeland. Valgland. Navy Chief Admiral Kurt Hexer, on Tuesday said an Agnolian drilling ship was driven away from Valgland exclusive economic zone in the Nederlander Sea recently, asserting that such activities will be dealt with swiftly and sternly. The ship entered the area without Valglandian Navy's prior permission, they said. The illegal occupation of Helgeland does not give Agnolia the right to claim the seas. Our stance has been that if you do anything in our region, you have to notify us or take our permission, Navy said at a press conference, without elaborating further on the incident. Since 1950, there have been a permanent presence of the Valglandian Navy in the Markian Sea region, mostly in the form of anti-piracy force. Experts are concerned about Agnolia's increasing forays around Helgeland, which they believe may trigger a heavy response from Northland. Acacia fires the M4 ICBM. White Walker has announced the first successful Arcasian intercontinental ballistic missile test, which was conducted at a military test site in Nuam Atoll in the middle of Oceania. The fired missile, codenamed Missile 4, flew several thousand kilometers toward the direction of the United Contana, while crashing down at sea close to the abandoned radioactive Rostov Island. The missile test indicates that Acacia wants to send a message to the United Contana about island based in the middle of Oceania, while displaying that the Acasian military technology has advanced. Will Acacia be able to catch up to the United Contana in the face of growing contentiousness between the superpowers? Well, that is a question. Report from Suzerain. Massive network of BFF priests discovered. The Vice Minister of the Interior has reported the discovery of a large-scale underground network of the BFF that encompasses all cities in Bergia. Under the guise of state-sanctioned priesthood, the BFF has recruited hundreds and possibly thousands of nudity worshippers, including non-bloody citizens, to support their cause for independence. A dozen arrests were made, but since most police officers don't speak Bloodish, be difficult to find the actual ringleader place of the network. Education in rural regions requires improvement. Giada Walder reports that the current education institution in rural regions of Sordland have been largely neglected. As part of an analysis, the literacy rate in Sordland currently stands at 80%, while rural regions like Narbel has a literacy rate of 64%. The lack of schools per capita also reflects these results. Report from Laren, military equipment outdated. The General Staff has performed an analysis on our borders to assess our military defence capabilities against a potential Rumberg attack. The results show that our military equipment is outdated and needs replacement as soon as possible. The continuation of the worrying report shows that the event of an attack, our border would be broken through easily, leaving the primary regions of Sordland exposed. Well, we'll have to hope it doesn't happen. Agnolia offshore drilling near Hellsland increased. Agnolia has started a new oil drilling operation very close to the disputed territory of Hedgie Island. The tensions increased when the situation turned into a standoff between Valslandian and Agnolian warships. It took several hours for the gridlock to be resolved, and the situation was de-escalated for now. Report from Benfey. Benfey Regional Airport overcrowded. We have been receiving reports about the capacity of Benfey Regional Airport. The Mayor of Benfey is preparing to put a request forward for an investment to build an international airport in the city. For a touristic region like Benfey, he claims it would increase the overall prosperity of Sordland. Yes, but we don't have funds for everything, do we? Workers' Right Act. Sign or veto the Workers' Right Act that was approved by the Grand National Assembly. Section 1 establishes the minimum wage of 2.5 Swedish rand per hour. Section 2 sets a weekly maximum of 60 hours of labour. Section 3 establishes double overtime pay per hour after 40. Section 4 determines that workers are to be protected against occupational hazards and be provided humane work conditions. Section 5 establishes that migrants and undocumented workers have the same workers' rights as citizens. Any employer shall not abide by these rules. They will be heavily fined. Yes. -1 government budget. Oh. Well, that puts us at -1 then, doesn't it? New law on workers' rights. The Workers' Rights Act has been assigned into a law by the present reign after approval of the Grand National Assembly by majority vote on Monday following a 6-hour debate. Mansoon Lake, who campaigned heavily for the bill, also sought to express his gratitude for the confirmation of the new laws, saying it contained much vital rules and regulations for the workers, the backbones of our nation. The new law establishes a minimum work... Yes, we know what it does. Rain signs Workers' Rights Bill into law. Recently implemented Workers' Rights Bill caused the initial protests against the government to mellow down after the Morbil mine disaster. Chants of anger have turned into solidarity marches. One of the spokespersons for the Nedham Mining Group has accused President Rain of acting impulsively with the bill, saying that it puts too much weight on the businesses. Well, it's not like you haven't been putting weight on the workers now, is it? After the public announcement, Nedham has received hundreds of lawsuits from people around the country. Workers' Rights Bill signed. In a surprising move, President Rain has decided to do something right for his citizens by signing the Workers' Rights Act into law. This looks as a publicity move after the terrible Morbil mine disaster. The new law establishes a minimum wage, etc. On the other hand, it may simply be a diversion. Well, we'll have to see, won't we? Unfortunately, we're at -1 budget now. Regional investment decision. A proposed regional investment to strengthen the weaker parts of the economy. Gus Manger and Simon Hall have prepared an extensive regional investment package to revitalise one of the top 3 economically fragile regions by boosting the municipality budgets, providing large sums business grants and giving cheap loans to companies with liquidity problems. Proposal implemented in one of the following regions. I want to, but I don't think I can afford to go to -2, so don't invest. Budget allocation of law enforcement. I was in my office reading reports from the ministries about the current situation of the protests. My next scheduled meeting was about the law enforcement budget with Nia and Lilias. I heard some knocks on the door. Nia entered and took a seat in front of my desk. Lilias was absent. "Good afternoon, Mr. President," she said. "Lilias will be late. Apparently there was an urgent matter at the Ministry of the Interior she had to attend to. Shouldn't take long." "What urgent matter?" "Said something about supply distribution for police forces, nothing major." I returned to my reports and Nia smoothed back an errant strand of her hair. There was an awkward silence. "Well, wait. Why don't we have a little chat? This might come off as a little strange, but I'm proud of you. Despite everything, you're actually trying to reform the country." "It's we, Nia, not me. I couldn't do any of this by myself, so no, I am proud of you." "Well, thank you. You certainly have a way with words, don't you?" "Words are just words. Actions are what's important. And you seem to be doing well at both so far. Pros are cancelling out other cons for sure." You lean forward. "How are you really holding up, Anton? Being the president, I mean." "It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but it's also the best thing I've ever done in my life. I can imagine so much responsibility and so much power at the same time. I want to assist you and the country as best I can, and to do that I have an idea. We need to eliminate the worst problems we have. Corruption. How do you suppose we do that? It's high time the old guards and the Supreme Court stop holding the country in the palm of their hands. That's why I want to form a new unit, the Anti-Corruption Police. This is my idea." So, what if the Anti-Corruption Police gets corrupted? What then? And see, that is a valid point. Is this just throwing money at a problem without achieving anything? I'm still figuring out the details myself right now, but of course there would be safety mechanisms in place. Also, one more thing, about Lilias. I wouldn't trust her if she barely finished a sentence before we heard a knock on the door. Nia almost jumped in her chair. Lilias Graf entered the room. "Mr. President, Nia." "I hope that I'm not interrupting your conversation," said Lilias. "No, not at all," said Nia. "We were just discussing a few things." Nia smiled at Lilias. "I'm sorry for being late. There was an important matter at the ministry. Just a small dispute over who should get the supplies, nothing major." Lilias took the seat next to Nia as she continued talking. "Well then, let's get straight in. We will provide a brief update of the situation of law enforcement. Go ahead." "Nia? The Ministry of Justice and the Supreme Court is working in close collaboration with the Ministry of the Interior to address the protests in the country," said Nia. "I must add that thanks to the hard work of our judiciary, the law enforcement forces assigned to my ministry are doing their jobs efficiently. I would call it success of our force on the ground," said Lilias, "not due to a judicial branch of our government." Lilias shot Nia a brief, withering glance. As expected, the budget increase has boosted morale of the employees in the law enforcement agencies. In these dire times, my people and Nia's people are especially delighted. I think you'll be glad to hear that the support for you among the forces is at an all-time high, Mr. President. And for that, all we say is bravo. That was an excellent decision." "Agreed. At the Ministry of Justice, we are very happy with the decisions as well. The backlog of the court cases are dwindling, and we have started to fulfill the needs of the current situation." "Certainly a step in the right direction," said Nia. "I did what was expected from me, that's all." "Of course," said Lilias. "Well then, let's move on to what we are actually here for. Due to the budget increase, we can start doing much more as the main branch of security in Sordland. However, a decision has to be made about the budget balance between the Ministry of the Interior and Ministry of Justice. Exactly, when deciding, you must look at the bigger picture. I believe you'll make the right decision and pick the Ministry of the Interior," said Lilias. "Why should I pick the Ministry of Interior?" "The Ministry of the Interior is a much more significant and important government agency," said Lilias, "that is in need of funds. especially during these times where there are many protests in our country. Good luck prosecuting criminals or going through local government laws without enough judges, Lilia, said Nia. Why should I pick Ministry of Justice? Each day the stacks of legal cases are piling up for our judges. I thought you said you were catching up. Cases for corruption and criminals are delayed due to lack of funds. It seems to be that it is an organisational issue, but not a funding one, said Lilias. The Interior needs the money more for the police and local governments. What if I decide to balance the budget between Ministry of Interior and Ministry of Justice? Balancing the budget won't help us much, said Lilias. The current situation clearly demands that a decisive choice be made to benefit the nation. I agree. We need to focus on one ministry to achieve tangible results, said Nia. Of course, what would make more sense in the current situation would be to support the much neglected Ministry of Justice, but improve the legal system in Sordland. Tell me, Nia, said Lilias, who will bring the criminals before the judges? Let me answer. The police forces connected to the Ministry of the Interior. Ready to make it work? What will it be? Lilias and Nia lean forward. Oh my. I can see arguments for both. I think I'm more concerned about staffing during the protests and about sorting out local government, so Interior. Wise choice, said Lilias. Has it affected you to be different, Mr. President, said Nia. A brief moment of deliberation passed. Nia got up from her seat. I must return to the ministry to implement the necessary changes. Very well, see you soon, Nia. I have a few words with Mr. President, said Lilias. Nia smiled and left the room. Lilias turned to me. I have a proposal. We've been battling with terror for a long time now. I want to put an end to it. That's why I'm proposing the formation of a secret police force. This would be a new force that would be in charge of handling internal security and intelligence matters. The primary aim of this program is to detect and prevent subversive elements, before they take any harmful action against the state. If you accept, this will give our administration power to handle the threats more discreetly as well. Interesting. I've said all along that power concentrated in the hands of the few and applied appropriately is strength. But is this appropriate? Or is this in fact just evil, incarnate? No, we're not doing secret police. Our current structure is enough. Unfortunate. Regardless, this has been a very productive day. I have to take my leave now as well. I'll be in touch. Lilias got up and left the room. An evening walk with Monica, residence of the President of Sordland, Hall Sword. It was early evening, still light out with just a faint nip in the air. Frank was at a friend's and Diana was at art class. Monica and I decided to go out for a walk before dinner. Our favourite place for a stroll was the nearby Capital Park, the largest green space in Old Hall Sword. Before the children were born, we had spent many an evening engaged in deep conversation along the riverside promenade. Another favoured path wound through the woods behind the presidential housing complex to a private pond where the children would swim in summer. I was told that Sol himself had built it, the benefit of being president. Monica met me by the door and we put our coats and hats on. I was going to suggest we walk towards Sol Square, but the guards told me that it's been closed for yet another protest. I wonder who they are protesting this time, said Monica. What does it matter? They're two sides of the same coin. You always did believe yourself to be above the fray, said Monica. I was young and stupid. I didn't know any better. In any case, where shall we go? I'm not sure Capital Park is a wise idea at this climate either. You're right. It's not worth security. Let's stay inside the gates. Nonsense. We have our guards. There's nothing to be afraid of. Be seen. Okay, so let's go then before the children get home. I informed the guards about our route and we left the house. The guards followed us to the black Cadillac as we exited the gates, walking briskly with each Capital Park in minutes. As we entered, Monica broke the silence. So how was your day? How was yours? Avoiding my question, are we? Very well. Actually, I talked to plenty of people about my day. I'd like to talk about yours, Monica. Well, it was fine. I caught up on some reading while the children were at school. As we reached the river, we saw Ioannis Krona, the former Ministry of Justice, walking in the opposite direction. I remember that Nia Morgana used to be his vice minister. He gave us a quick nod of acknowledgement. Ioannis had once fought hard and strong against all judiciary reforms. But after years of government blocking his every move, he gave up on his ideals and became part of the administration. What did our ideals really mean if they could be changed so easily? What about the people we idolise? Evelyn came round for tea. She says hi. She was feeling rather low, though, said Monica. Apparently she and Petter have had a bit of a disagreement. Oh dear. Petter in the doghouse again? How'd it happen? Apparently Petter had too much whiskey, as usual, and didn't behave when Evelyn's father was over for dinner yesterday. Petter, I'm losing faith in you, my friend. You know, Petter, what do you think of this? That's Petter, perpetually pickled. I'll have a talk with him. Good. Evelyn seemed close to tears. Being married to a... No, not calling her shrew. Aren't you glad you and I don't have these kind of quarrels? Monica didn't say anything. Oh, what are you harbouring, Monica? You know Evelyn hasn't been the same since what happened to her at the Haltod Post last year. You remember how she got fired for supporting Alfonso? Petter tried everything to get her job back, but it didn't work. A sad day for journalism and free speech in Sordland. I completely agree, said Monica. A sad day indeed. But enough about the Vecturns. I spoke to Janice on the phone. Who? You remember my friend from university? We were in the Swedish literature class together. Ah. A few years younger than me, red hair, scar on her forehead. So, Harry Potter meets Ginny Weasley? We had dinner with her and her husband once or twice. Neither the name nor the description rang a bell. I still don't remember her, but go on. Anyway, she's been working as an executive assistant at the Violet Pictures film studio. She recently became pregnant and asked her boss for paid maternity leave, and guess what? She was fired for it. That's not good. After asking for maternity leave, that's terrible. I know, I was beside myself when she told me, and that's not all. They immediately replaced her with a younger, less experienced man, the son of an executive no less. Nepotism. They must have wanted him in there all along. That doesn't justify what they did to her. No, it doesn't. Nepotism isn't good. As it happens, another friend works for the television station that's hiring secretaries, so I connected the two of them. That doesn't solve the deeper problem, though. Exactly. I knew you'd be on the same page, said Monica. Women in this country are still seen as wives and mothers first, human beings second. They're harassed at work, underpaid, blocked from positions of power, and those are the lucky ones. The fact that there are still places in this country where little girls like Diana are denied the right of an education. Yes, and I will do what I can to change that. It can't just be you. These little girls and people like Janice need someone to speak on their behalf, a role model, a successful woman. We were right in front of one of the park benches that lined the river. Monica gestured to it and we sat down. Which brings me to my point. I know that the mayor of Anrica, Curtin Lest, will be delivering a speech at the annual opening of the Benfey Festival. My wish is to take his place and deliver the speech instead. Lest was one of Sordland's most influential politicians. He had started his career in Benfey before rising to power in Anrica. Benfey's current mayor had personally invited him to make the opening speech. Replacing him with Monica would likely anger him, not enough to cause a major incident, but enough that he might not support me in the assembly. I want to base the speech on women's rights in Sordland, on the oppression and discrimination we face today, on the basis of our sex alone. I want our voice heard, and this festival is the time to do it. I just need your blessing, my husband, as the president of Sordland. Monica's eyes were blazing with a fire. I hadn't seen since we were students. He wanted this badly. But I had to be careful with my promises. Does it have to be at the festival? Why can't you make your speech another time? It has to be now. Thousands go to this festival, and millions watch your speeches at home. Sordland's women can't wait any longer. I think this is a really bad idea. Monica, I don't wish to offend you, but you must find another time. I don't understand. Isn't this something you cared about as well? I can't make Colonel Lest angry. What little trouble this causes in the short term is nothing compared to the lasting positive change it will bring. No, it won't, because people will be offended and pissed off, and that will sink your ship. I don't think so. Monica was silent for a while. When she finally spoke, there was a chill in her voice. That's truly how you feel, so be it. We walked back home, neither was looking at the other. I'm sorry, Monica, but that's entirely unreasonable. All Sword Post. Protesters target sacred symbols. Sacred figures and symbols of Dastronity, including St. Dast himself, have become targets of vandalism. Protests continue across Sordland. What initially began as a protest against the murder of Bernard Circus in January has turned into riots. Rioters forcibly tearing down monuments of former Swordish politicians, saints and other figures. Even if rioters are successful in removing the images of St. Dast or Tarquin Sol from part of society, this will only serve to strengthen our faith and our political will, said Colonel Lest, Mayor of the worst hit cities, Enrica. Blackhaven Times. Explosion in Dyer, 3 killed, 22 wounded, not good. A bomb attack on the police station in Dyer has killed 3 officers and injured 22 others. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack. The police of Dyer said militants from the Bloodish Freedom Front, or BFF, were likely behind the attack, and reported that several militants also fired at the officers as they tried to escape the fires with the explosion. There has been a wave of unrest in Sordland in the last couple of months. These attacks seem to suggest that the racial tensions in Bergia have also increased to very dangerous levels, which raises questions about how the situation could be handled. The Workers' Party of Bloodia has condemned the incident, adding that the BFF does not reflect the views of the culture of the Polish people. Acacia has called on both sides to avoid violence, but stressed that Sordland has the right to defend itself against attacks by bloodied rebels. Detonation Sordland in a tough, tight spot. Current public reports from the Ministry of Economy are pointing to a deep underlying problem in Sordland's economic standing, debt. It appears the current ventures to get out of recession have put a considerable dent in the reserves. Although the comments from the administration state that this situation is only temporary, that remains to be seen. Our economic advisors have commented on the matter, saying that the current stance of the administration is hiding the extent of the debt. This, of course, brings up the recession. Is Sordland turning into a debt nation? Richter calls President to action. Head of Sordland's main opposition party, People's Freedom and Justice, Brent Richter, has said President Wren needs to address issues like term limits and electoral threshold if Sordland's democracy, freedoms and economy were to be developed. Richter also talked of the need for educational reforms and expressed support for Minister of Education Sarah Walder. Economy slowly recovering. From The Economist, the recession has slowed down last month, showing signs of recovery, but make no mistake, Sordland is still in a danger zone. The past several weeks have brought lots of mixed news in Sordland. But good news came particularly from several regions hitting pre-recession output numbers. Thousands of people returning to work and Swordish citizens getting out and spending more. Manufacturers cranked up the assembly lines again, and many businesses welcomed back customers. Moloch condemns Arcasian soldiers in Lesbia. Rakovitz, Velen, Wezek President Viktor Smolak on Thursday criticised the lesbian government for bringing Arcasian soldiers close to the borders of Wellen. Last month, Prime Minister Alvarez and President Walker agreed on the construction of several military bases in Lesbia that would station ATO soldiers. With the arrival of the first Arcasian soldiers to Lesbia this week, Wellen's stance has become increasingly hostile. In his speech on Thursday, Smolak said President Walker has succeeded in spreading Arcasian imperialism to Eastern Makopa, which will have several consequences for every one of us in the region. ATO is clearly expanding its influence in our region using Lesbia. We must be careful, said President Smolak, warning the neighbouring nations of Agnolia and Sordland to be prepared for future crises. Alright. Let's just see what issues are coming up before we quit. BFF bombs police station. In a treacherous assault, the BFF has bombed a police station in Dyer. You know the strange thing about the other bombing mentioned? Nobody claimed it. It's a strange act of terrorism that has no source, and therefore no message behind it that's obvious. In treacherous act, the perpetrators have escaped the Gumran Mountains near Suzerain, and a search was started to bring them to justice. The board guard has been notified of the attackers in case they try to flee to Wellen. The Workers' Party Bloodia condemned the incident. And we have two decision things. Briefing on H3 construction issues. I'm not looking for issues, I'm looking for success. Discussion of change of the tax system. Businesses wanting freebies there. Right, we'll come back next time. For now, I've been Yorkie the Talespinner. You've been fantastic, and I appreciate your viewership. If you wish to hit the like, subscribe, and comment, that would be even more appreciated, as it helps the channel grow. Fare thee well.